Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. I'm here today to talk about what I watched in June of 2021. Yes, I know it's August, but I got a little behind just because I was trying to wait for my new laptop to get here so that I could do editing and make, the kind of videos that I want to make. But I did start this. I started writing down all the things that I was watching each month to go ahead and get a jump start because I started off really strong. If you saw my previous video, May 2021 was a pretty good month. I watched a lot of good stuff and rewatched a lot of good stuff, and I continued that in June. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with the first thing that I watched in June of 2021, and that was a rewatch. It was The Land Before Time, 1988. Oh man, I hadn't watched this movie in a really long time. My girlfriend and I actually watched this one together. She hadn't seen it in a really long time either. If you are a child of the 80s or 90s, you probably watched this movie when you were a kid. You probably watched it many times as a kid. And you also remember that it's one of those that may have given you some trauma. Uh, but we rewatched it, and it's a little over an hour and 9 minutes to be exact. Rated G. Of course, it's a kids movie, and it's still pretty good. I think it still holds up pretty well. I didn't really remember a lot of it, to be honest with you. If you have kids, if you are a fan of this movie and you have kids today, show them this movie. I think they'll really enjoy it. For many of us, this was our first introduction to dinosaurs, and kind of like this is where our love for dinosaurs and fascination for dinosaurs started. And then it was just either solidified or reignited when Jurassic Park came out in 1993. All right, next up. This is one of my favorite bad movies to watch. This, again, another rewatch. From 2011, we have Shark Night. I don't know what it is about this movie. I really enjoyed it a lot. Is it perfect? No. By no means is it perfect. A lot of people consider it to be a bad movie. That's why I say, I guess I could categorize it as a guilty pleasure. But I really enjoy this movie. I've rewatched it a handful of times, and I enjoy it every single time I watch it. Like I said, from 2011, it's PG-13. It is an hour and 30 minutes. And it's about a weekend at a lake house in the Louisiana Gulf turns into a nightmare for 7 vacationers as they are subjected to shark attacks. I mean, that's really all you need to know, right? Stars Sarah Paxton, Dustin McGillen, and Chris Carmack. Like I said, it's one of my favorite kind of guilty pleasure movies. I would not argue that this is some cinematic masterpiece, but it is entertaining. It is enjoyable to me, so I rewatch it, every little bit because I enjoy it. Next, another rewatch. This one is from 2001. This is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, starring Gina Phillips and Justin Long, Jeepers Creepers. This movie, I know that there's controversy because of the writer-director Victor Silva. A lot of people have kind of blacklisted this movie. I've seen some people actually throw out their copies of this movie, which is kind of silly, to be honest with you. You've already paid for the film. You already supported it. So there's really no need. But this one I actually own. But we watched it, I believe, on we watched it on a streaming service. It was included in it. It might have been Amazon Prime. I can't really remember. My girlfriend and I rewatched it together. This movie, I love this movie. I think Gina Phillips and Justin Long are great in it. I think Jonathan Breck as the Creeper is great. To me, the Creeper is right up there with the iconic movie villains, antagonists, what have you, such as Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and Chucky. I think it is an awesome character, an awesome creature, and I really enjoy this movie. All right, the next movie was another new watch. It is from 2008, rated R, 1 hour and 22 minutes, and it's called Splinter. And no, it's not about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles master. It is starring Shane Wingham, Paulo Costanzo, and Jill Wagner. And what it's about: when their plans for a nature trip go awry, Polly and boyfriend Seth decide to check into a motel. On their way, they're carjacked and kidnapped by low-rent crooks Dennis and Lacey, who take the victims and their SUV to a nearby gas station. Along the way, they encounter an increasingly terrifying horde of parasites, and if any of them intend to survive, they'll have to outsmart the deadly organisms. This was one of those that we just watched by chance, my girlfriend and I think we caught it on Shudder one night, I want to say, or maybe Tubi, and we had just put it on for something to watch, and it was surprisingly good. Again, one of those kind of sleeper type movies that you don't expect to be good. It was very entertaining. It was pretty original for the most part, and I would recommend it. Next is yet another new watch. This one my girlfriend has been trying to get me to watch for quite some time, and I finally did it. It is from 1991, rated R, 1 hour and 33 minutes, Dolly Dearest. I thought it was entertaining. I think it's worth the watch just to be able to say that you watched it. It's not one of the worst movies that I've ever seen, but it's far from the best movie I've ever seen. A lot of people talk about this being a blatant Chucky ripoff, and I can certainly see why. It's about a killer doll. It also stars Ed Gale in the role of the doll. And if you don't know, Chucky actually was the stunt double in the original Child's Play movie as Chucky. He also played Station in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And he was Howard in Howard the Duck in 1986. So a lot of really cool credits there. However, he was uncredited as his role as Dolly in Dolly Dearest. What it's about: a toy manufacturer buys the Dolly Dearest factory in Mexico, where the malevolent spirit of Sanzia, a devil child, has taken refuge in one of the porcelain dolls and eventually takes control of his daughter. It also stars Denise Crosby, which you'll know as the mother in the original Pet Sematary, as well as Rip Torn. Again, next, the first 2002 and the second 2004, and that's Resident Evil and Resident Evil Apocalypse. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with the Resident Evil movie series, franchise, whatever you want to call it. Whenever I originally saw the first Resident Evil movie, I was not a fan. It's one of those that grew on me over time. After a few rewatches, and now I really enjoy it. However, Apocalypse was immediately a favorite of mine, and it's still my favorite of the series. Alright, my next movie of the month, another new watch from 1986, PG-13, 1 hour and 26 minutes, Critters. Now, I know this movie has reached cult status. A lot of people love this movie. This is considered a classic movie. I was not really impressed with it. I was expecting more. I was hoping to like it a lot more. I really was. I went into it hoping that this was going to be another Gremlins, and I guess maybe because of that I set myself up for failure. However, it just didn't do it for me. I'm glad that I watched it. I would recommend seeing it because it is entertaining. But yeah, not one of my favorites. I don't know if I'd watch it again. Alright, next movie is a rewatch. All the way from 1996. This one, my girlfriend and I were just looking for something to put on one night. I think that we saw this on... What was this on? And I think that we saw this on Amazon Prime and decided to give it a rewatch. And actually, it still holds up personally. I cannot watch the Beavis and Butthead TV show anymore. It's not enjoyable. It's not funny. It's mostly just annoying. I loved it as a kid. I used to sneak and watch it late nights on MTV, and I absolutely loved it. I ate it up. I think it was mainly because of my age, but also I think it was just the fact that I wasn't supposed to be watching it. Just being told I shouldn't watch it, I can't watch it, just made me want to watch it even more. However, Beavis and Butthead Do America still holds up. I still enjoyed it. I'm probably in that certain category of people that grew up in the 90s, or maybe was Beavis and Butthead's, or maybe were Beavis and Butthead fans then that still enjoy it. I don't really know, but I still like it. I still enjoyed watching it. And I also still really enjoyed hearing Unsolved Mysteries, Robert Stack as the ATF agent. Alright, another new watch. From 2002, rated R, 1 hour and 31 minutes. This movie I have seen on a couple of different lists of horror movies that you should watch. Underrated horror movies, what have you. I thought I had seen this one, but it was very obvious about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes into it. I didn't remember anything about this. I didn't remember any of this cast. After discovering a passenger ship missing since 1962, floating adrift on the Bering Sea, salvagers claim the vessel as their own. Once they begin towing the ghost ship towards harbor, a series of bizarre occurrences happen and the group becomes trapped inside the ship, which they soon learn is inhabited by a demonic creature. A lot of familiar faces in this one. Gabriel Byrne, Juliana Margulies, Isaiah Washington, Carl Urban, and a very, very young Emily Browning. Really wanted to like this movie, but I was disappointed with it. Really wanted to like this movie, but I was disappointed with it, to be honest. Wasn't as good as what I was led to believe by a lot of these lists saying that this was a really good movie. I thought it was pretty original. However, I don't think it was executed to its fullest potential. Okay, next up, another new watch. This one from 1998, rated R. 1 hour and 48 minutes, and let me tell you, it felt like 1 hour and 48 minutes. The movie, Vampires, also known as John Carpenter's Vampires. Now this one is another one that kept showing up on lists, starring James Woods and Daniel Baldwin, and obviously directed by John Carpenter. However, he did not have anything to do with the writing. Now this one is about a team of vampire slayers who must retrieve an ancient Catholic relic that, should it be acquired by vampires, will allow them to walk in sunlight. To me, this movie had a lot of potential, and I don't think it was terrible by any means. It was entertaining, held my interest. I wanted to continue watching. I wanted to see the outcome of the movie. So, I mean, that's a plus in my book. However, it just didn't do it for me. It's not an instant classic. Next, another rewatch. This one right here is one of my absolute favorites. A comedy from 1994, starring Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, Dumb and Dumber. This one I put on one night, we wanted something to watch. We were lying in bed, needed something to watch. There it was, I think it was on Hulu, popped it on, and I still enjoy this movie a lot. I watched it a lot growing up. It was on TBS often. Whether it was at the beginning, middle, or end, I always watched it. I couldn't even tell you a rough estimate of how many times I watched this movie. And in my opinion now, it is a classic. It's one of those that's going to go down in history. It may already be as one of the greatest comedies of all time. I'm a big fan of Jim Carrey. I might be a little biased. A lot of my favorite 90s comedies were Jim Carrey. Still one of my favorite comedies to this day. One of my favorite movies, period. Alright, next movie on the list, another new watch. From 2017, rated R, 1 hour and 30 minutes, we have Leatherface. This one here, I wasn't sure if I had actually seen before. I thought I had seen all of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, spin-offs, what have you, except for, I think, New Generation, that has Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger. But we got a few minutes into this, I didn't remember any of it. Starring Lily Taylor, which you'll know from The Conjuring, and Stephen Dorff. It is about a teenage Leatherface escaped from a mental hospital with 3 other inmates, kidnapping a young nurse and taking her on the road trip from hell while being pursued by a lawman out for revenge. This movie was good. We enjoyed it. Worth a watch. It, fits pretty well in the Leatherface mythos. The only thing about this one is it's one of those origin tales. It's Leatherface before he's Leatherface. Leatherface before he's doing all the things that makes him Leatherface. It made that character the icon that it is today. I enjoyed it for the most part. I might watch it again. It's not one that has the rewatchability for me personally as the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Here we go. The biggest movie of June that I watched, 2021 TVMA, 1 hour and 28 minutes, starring Nicolas Cage, Willy's Wonderland. I had high hopes for this one. I know that it's become almost an instant cult classic. A lot of people love this movie and gush about this movie. I wasn't a big fan. I don't know what I was expecting other than it's obviously inspired by the video game Five Nights at Freddy's. It's almost a blatant ripoff. That being said, I'm not really sure what they could have done with it other than what they did. It had certain elements that I liked, but looking at the big picture, I just wasn't a fan. I wasn't expecting a great masterpiece, but it just didn't do it for me. And that's really not helped by the fact that so many people have gone gaga over this movie since its release. Okay, another new watch for the month of June. This is a 2020 release, PG-13, 1 hour and 35 minutes, starring Kristen Stewart, Underwater. I saw this recommended by a couple of people. One person in particular had said that they felt like it was a cross between Fallout and BioShock. 2 of my favorite video game franchises right there. I mean, other than the fact that, this movie and BioShock take place underwater, that's really the only similarities that I see. A crew of oceanic researchers working for a deep-sea drilling company try to get to safety after a mysterious earthquake devastates their underwater research and drilling facility located at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. So if you like movies with that kind of claustrophobic vibe, you'll enjoy this. Lost in Space movies and Trapped Under the Sea movies are very similar. I thought this movie was okay. I'm not mad that I watched it. Probably wouldn't watch it again. I would recommend it if you like these type of movies. Alright, finishing this one out with what I watched in June. We have a couple of TV shows. My girlfriend and I have been re-watching the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episodes on Netflix. I was a huge Power Ranger fan, Power Ranger nerd as a kid. I absolutely loved it. I had the toys. I used to make the little wrist communicators out of notebook paper and tape them to my wrist and wear them. People used to make fun of me for it, of course. I used to play outside alone by myself, doing karate chops and kicks and all that kind of stuff. You see this pudgy kid by himself outside, kicking and fighting invisible people. People probably thought I had problems. However, loved it then. I still enjoy it now. I can see, though, it hasn't aged well. There's still certain elements about it today that I still love. And I'm enjoying rewatching most of these episodes. It's a fun trip down memory lane. And the last thing that we watched, or my girlfriend and I watched this together as well, and that was WWE Hidden Treasures. I really enjoy this show more for the historical value of it, looking back on the history of the WWE. And I like seeing all the old like footage that they show and all of that. I really couldn't care less about when they get to the part where they're bidding for things and all of that mess. That just doesn't do anything for me. It's very Pawn Star-esque, or like that show Storage Wars. You can tell it has some fabrication. You can tell it has some scripting, fabrication type deal in there. I could do without that stuff. But watching it, seeing these guys, some of these guys that I grew up watching, some of these guys that were ahead of my time that I still enjoy, that I still know how important they are in the history of WWE and professional wrestling, it's really enjoyable. I liked it a lot. My girlfriend watched it with me, and I think she liked it. I think she enjoyed more seeing my reaction to certain things. My biggest thing with this show is like the fact that they're going around the country trying to track down all these items. What are they going to do with them? So they're just going to throw them all in this big warehouse and just keep them? Or to bring a couple items out once a year during WrestleMania time? Getting it from these collectors just to go throw it in a big building somewhere where it's not going to see the light of day seems really stupid to me. So, I don't know. Hopefully that's what they're going to do. Hopefully they are planning on building some sort of a showcase, a museum or something like that to allow people to see all of this stuff, this history. But finally, we have reached the end of what I watched in June of 2021. A lot of stuff. Like I said, that's why I kind of started doing this when I did. I think June was really good. A lot of rewatches in there, but that's gonna do it for this video. As always, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like. I appreciate it. Any comments, suggestions, any of that good stuff, drop them down below. I'd love to hear the feedback. Click that subscribe button so that you can see when I upload new videos. I try to upload pretty consistently. I'm hoping to do a lot more of these style of videos. But again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.